We've got to have a discussion about hit factor, specifically what it is, how to calculate it, and most importantly, how to use it in training. Let's get right into it. All right, what's up guys? Welcome back to the Gateway Defense YouTube channel. I am super excited to be here with you guys today and coming at you with another video here. I know it's been a long time since we've been uploading videos regularly, and I appreciate you guys sticking around, and hopefully the videos that are coming in the future will be stuff that you guys dig. As you know, if you watch the channel update video, this channel is has undergone some changes just due to my personal life and Justin's personal life, but I'm excited to start bringing you guys some new content. You guys can expect a bunch of different types of videos. There will be some range videos, training stuff, dry fire stuff. There will be videos from class that I'm traveling around the country teaching classes. If I have the time, the resources, I'll get some of that filmed for you guys as well. I'll bring you guys along to some matches and things like that, and just basically give you guys as much content as possible to help you guys, whether you're in the middle of your shooting journey and you're working on training, or you're trying to update your gear, or whatever it is. I want to be helpful for you guys. Today, we're going to be doing a video that's just us sitting right here in studio talking about a topic that I think is really important, and that is going to be hit factor. I think that hit factor is a concept that a lot of people are familiar with, or maybe it's a term that they've heard. Maybe they know that it's a way to score a drill, but they don't really know anything beyond that about hit factor. And I want to kind of get into what it is and how it works, and then also take a look at why I think it's so important to be using it in training. So let's just kick it off with what is hit factor, right? Hit factor at its core is just a scoring metric that's used in a couple of different sports. So the shooting sports of USPSA and IPSC are the ones that use this, this scoring system the most. PCSL, which is like a 1-gun and 2-gun type of sport, is also using hit factor scoring, which is great to see. But they're a bit of a newer sport, but USPSA and IPSC are the big ones. So what are the requirements to calculate hit factor? Two things. Number one, you're going to have a target that has graduated scoring zones. So as you guys can see in this target, hopefully you guys can see these perforation lines okay. The middle part here is the A zone, or the alpha zone, right? This next graduated ring outside is the Charlie zone, or the C zone, and then we have the D zone, or the delta zone, right here on the end, right? So each of these scoring zones are worth a certain number of points. In the case of USPSA, for the most part, for most divisions, we're looking at something we call minor scoring, which is where the alpha is worth 5 points, the Charlie is worth 3 points, and the delta is worth 1 point. Now, there is a version of the sport, depending on the division you're shooting and the caliber you're shooting, where you can use major power factor scoring, and that's going to be where you have the same 5 points for the alpha, but instead of 3 points for the Charlie, you get 4 points. Instead of 1 point for the delta, you get 2 points. But most people, especially the types of people that I train who are just getting into USPSA or just discovering it, and for the most part have guns to defend themselves and their families, and then are finding sport shooting as well, they're going to be competing in a minor scoring division. So we're just going to base everything off of minor scoring. And if I had my way, major scoring wouldn't exist, basically. We would just be working with minor scoring. So 5 points, 3 points, and 1 point. That's what we're going to work off of today. The next thing you're going to need to utilize hit factor scoring is an accurate way to record time. So something like this, which is just a shot timer, this is going to allow you to record how long it took you to do the shooting. So basically the way these work, you guys have seen this on the channel before. You'll power this on. This one's out of batteries. You'll hit that beep, or that start time, and you'll get an audible beep. On that audible sound, that beep, that's your signal to commence shooting. The course has begun, and then this thing will record every single shot, including the last one. So as soon as you fire your last shot, this will give you how long it took between the start beep and that last shot. And then, basically, all we're going to do is we're going to do a very simple math equation. Hit factor is math. Sorry to say, I know that is disappointing for a lot of you guys, but we're going to do a little bit of math on the channel here today. So let me just put this up here because I think this will be the easiest way to kind of see this, but hit factor is simply this math equation. Points divided by time. That's it, right? So we calculate up how many points did we collect. So let's say we shot one shot on this target. That's worth 5 points. It took us 1 second to do it. We're going to get a hit factor of 5, right? 5 points over 1 second is a 5 hit factor. All right, so hit factor is basically kind of like a unit conversion, right? Just keeping track of how many points in how much time. You can also think of it as basically a measure of efficiency. So how efficiently did you collect points per second, right? So you can think of this as, well, the time is ticking, right? The clock is running. How efficiently am I collecting points per second? And the person who collects the most points per second is the guy who wins that stage. Before we go any further, I want to just make sure you guys understand the scoring zones and the values associated with them. We've already said that alphas are worth 5 points, charlies are worth 3 points, and deltas are worth 1 point. However, there's a couple of other targets that you might see in a match setting. The first one is going to be a target that looks like this. So this is a mini USPSA target. I use these for dry fire. And what you've got here is you've got the brown cardboard. That's the portion that you're going to shoot at. And the black paint, or in this case, a bunch of Sharpie, the black paint here is going to be what's called hard cover, right? So hard cover basically is would be the same as if there was a wall here blocking your view, or a barrel here blocking your view. Basically, any shot that goes into the black is a complete miss. There's no additional penalty for it, but if you are shooting here at the alpha and you tank it a little bit low, it's just going to be scored as a miss, and so you will get the penalty for missing that target. Basically, you're missing out on 5 points that you could have collected, and they're going to give you a penalty of -10 for misses. All misses in USPSA are worth -10. The same thing would apply if you were shooting here and your second shot went high into the left. You would get a penalty of -10 up there, as well as missing out on any potential points you could have collected had you hit the target. The other type of target you might see is something like this, where you've got a no-shoot target overlaid on a target like this. So this is basically, you guys can see, kind of the same exact target, just one has hard cover and one has a no-shoot. A no-shoot will always be a penalty of -10 points, okay? So if I'm shooting here and then I shoot into the no-shoot, basically what I have here is I have a miss because I missed the brown, and then I'm also incurring an additional penalty of -10 because every time I hit a no-shoot target or like a hostage target, there's an additional penalty for shooting that, right? So whereas on a hardcover target, I could go alpha and then boom, 1 mic into the hardcover, and I would just get penalized for the 5 points I missed out on and basically the 10-point penalty for a miss, the same as shooting over the shoulder. On this one, it's going to be a miss as well as a no-shoot. So that's going to basically double the penalties for shooting the white target, okay? So I'll just write this out really quick over here. So I'll put a mic is equals -10, and a no-shoot will also equal -10, okay? So just to keep track of our scoring values. So I've got a fresh, clean target here, and we're going to calculate up a couple of examples, and we're going to use the build drill as an example. Now, what I want to give you is basically an easy way to calculate hit factor up while understanding the math behind it and what's going on, and to do it basically for any drill you ever set up. But I want to give you guys the easy way to do it because I see a lot of people actually mess this up and do it basically the really hard way. And I think it becomes a barrier for them to actually use hit factor because it ends up being like way too much math and way too much time. And I agree, if I was doing it that way, the way they're doing it with adding all the points up, it would take me forever and I basically wouldn't do it. So the way that I'm going to look at this is we're going to use something called the points down method or subtract from alpha method. Okay, let's use the build drill as an example, and I'm going to give you a couple of different examples, and we'll calculate up the hit factor associated with each one. So as you guys know, a build drill is shot from 7 yards. It's draw from the holster, fire 6 rounds to the target. Traditionally, we're looking for all alpha there, but if we're going to score this hit factor, let's say I throw a shot outside of the alpha, we would score it because we're just going to give you the point value that you shot or that you earned, right? So bear with me here. Let's calculate up a couple of different examples. All right, so the first one, I'm going to give this guy right here is going to be kind of our tactical Timmy, okay? So he is traditionally a very accurate shooter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, so this is our first shooter, and he has a very nice tight group inside the alpha, but it costs him a little bit of time. So this guy shot, and I'll just kind of make a little bit of a legend down here, okay? This guy shot all alphas, right? So how many points would that be? That would be 30 points, right? Because he shot 6 rounds. All of them hit the alpha, which are worth 5 points. And so he's got 30. So he's collecting all of the points, 30 points, right? Divided by, let's say he did that in 3 seconds. So he's going to get a 10 hit factor. All right, hopefully you guys can see the math right there. The next guy is a little bit faster, but not quite as accurate. So we'll give him like open hollow circles here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and let's put this one just outside. All right, so this guy has 6 shots as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Right, and he's got just one, just barely outside the Charlie there, or outside the alpha there in the Charlie. But that is only worth 3 points instead of 5. So what I could do now is, it's pretty easy. I think most people can calculate this up. Like, how many points did he collect, right? Well, if Charlies are worth 3, he collected only 28 points out of 30. And you could do that one of 2 ways. So if you just add everything up, you could go 5 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 25 plus 3, right? 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 3 is 28. Yes, or you could look at the Charlie as worth -2, okay? So remember, alphas are worth +5. You could also think of alphas as -0. You could think of Charlies as -2, and you could think of deltas as -1. I'm sorry, -4. They're worth 1 and -4, all right? So it'd be something like this, where if I get an alpha, I basically lose no points out of the maximum, right? For every Charlie I shoot, though, I'm going to subtract 2 because I'm collecting 3 out of 5, which is 2 from 5. And then in the delta, I'm only getting 1 point. So out of the max, that's -4, right? So if I think about alphas, Charlies, and deltas in that sense, this becomes a little bit easier to calculate because I only have to basically ignore the shots in the alpha and just count out the ones that weren't in the alpha, provided that there are actually 6 rounds on target and I didn't miss any. In this case, I see 6 rounds on target, perfect. I see 1 in the Charlie, so that's going to be 30 -2, and that's 28. So that's a super easy way to calculate it up. And again, we call that like the subtract from alpha method or the points down method. All right, one quick note on the subtract from alpha that I forgot to mention. If you've got a target that looks like this, let's say, and you're shooting at it just 2 times, and you put 1 in the alpha and then 1 completely off the target, right? That's just going to be a mic. Similar thing to if you shot into the hardcover, 1 in the alpha, 1 in the hardcover, that's just going to be scored as a mic. However, you need to think about mics as being -15. The reason being is you're losing out on a potential 5 points from the alpha. So if the alpha is -0, the Charlies are -2, deltas are -4, then a mic would be -5. But in USPSA, they give you a penalty of -10 also. So you've got to take that -5 with an additional -10, and now you've got -15. So hope you're tracking with that. The next thing is with no shoots, you can stack basically a mic and a no shoot together. So if I shoot 1 in the alpha and 1 dead center in the no shoot, that's basically going to be scored as a mic no shoot. So I'm going to get the -15 for the mic, as well as an additional -10 penalty for every no shoot that I hit. And so that's really going to be a calculation, calculate it all up, it's going to be a -25 from your score. So a mic no shoot is obviously super bad. Now, one thing I will say is in USPSA, if you cut the scoring perf of the no shoot, so let's say I have one that's just right here, right on the edge where it's cutting both the alpha and the no shoot along the dotted line, that can be scored as basically I've got one alpha dead center and then another alpha and a no shoot. Basically, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get alpha no shoot. So they'll score that as 2 alpha no shoot. So you get 10 points for those 2 shots in the alpha, and then you get that -10 points for that no shoot. So basically you break even. It's basically a +0 points there, right? So just keep that in mind. Anytime you tag the perforation, that's where the actual scoring zone is, and it's possible to get an alpha and a no shoot with the same shot. But avoid those mics and no shoots at all costs. That's a super heavy penalty. All right, back to the rest of the video. So this guy only has 28 points, right? And he shot it, let's say, in a 2.5, right? So 2.5 seconds. Already did the math on that earlier. That's going to be an 11.2 hit factor. All right, so that's shooter number 2. So far he's winning in hit factor, even though he didn't have all alphas. All right, let's do another shooter here. We'll do X's for this guy. So this guy has, let's say he's got 3 alphas. Well, actually, let's give him 4 alphas. We'll kind of spread them out a little bit. He's got one high and to the left, way out here, and then he's got one really low and to the right. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 alphas, 2 Charlies. Again, if I use the subtract from alpha method, I'm just going to count -2 for every Charlie, so that's -2 minus another 2, so we're down 4. 4 from 30 is 26. So this guy has collected 26 points. All right, and I'm just going to divide that. Let's say he did that in 2 seconds. All right, and that's going to be a 26 divided by 2 is going to be a 13, I believe. All right, so this guy gets a 13 hit factor. 26 divided by 2 is 13. So this guy has dropped the most points so far, and he is still coming out on top and winning with hit factor. So based on this data here, what I want you guys to think about is, can you tell what is more important in a billet drill, speed or accuracy? In my opinion, this becomes very clear that this drill is weighted a little bit more towards speed because there's not as much time available as there are points available, right? Time is, there's very little time, so time is so important. When you cut off 1 second when there are only 3 seconds to begin with, I mean, that is cutting your time basically by a third. And so this drill, when we do a little bit of math or we get a little bit of data on shooting this, it's pretty easy to see that this drill rewards speed. Now, let's take or just think of another example that might change this hit factor scoring, even though it's going to have the exact same number of points. So let's say I set up one target, all right, and I set up 3 different shooting positions. So let's say I set up basically one shooting position on the very left side of my range, I set one up in the middle, and then I set one up on the very right side of my range. And then I put that target about 15 or 20 yards downrange of those 3 positions. And the drill will be, let's say you have to start on any cone you want or at any position you want. So let's say I just start on the far left, and it's fire 2 shots to that single target from each position, okay? So now I'm gonna be in position 1, draw, fire 2, run to position 2, fire 2, run to position 3, fire 2. So it's still 6 rounds. So my total or my max points is still going to be 30 points. But let's say those cones are spread out pretty wide. That target is more difficult to shoot. And let's say I only did that in let's say 10 seconds. So now if I collected all alphas in 10 seconds, 30 points divided by 10 seconds, now my hit factor is a 3. Right? And so then you can go through kind of the same examples. Well, what if he did it, if he dropped 1 Charlie or dropped 2 Charlies or 3 Charlies, but was a little bit faster than that, and you guys can start seeing that, man, that's a drill that is a very low hit factor, and so maybe you'll see that points are more important in a drill like that, okay? And so that's kind of the beauty of hit factor, is that based on the drill, right, one thing, speed or accuracy, might be weighted a little bit more heavily, but you're still going to have to find the correct balance, right? So this brings me into kind of an idea that that was very prevalent when I started shooting, when I started getting into performance shooting, and that was basically you take a drill and you'd say, here's the accuracy standard, and then here is the time standard. So bill drill, again, perfect example, we would say a 2-second bill drill or sub 2-second bill drill, all clean, was the standard. Okay, so then I would present to you a question, right? Let's say I have shooter number 1, and I actually did a couple of numbers here. I wrote them out on my computer here. So let's say you've got one guy, and he shoots the bill drill, and he does all alphas, but he does it in a 2:01. Okay, so he's just over that 2-second par time, so he fails, right? And then I've got the next guy, and he steps up and he shoots a 199 for time, but he drops 1 Charlie just barely outside the A zone. So he fails. Who's the better shooter? How do you calculate that up, right? Well, you basically can't, because they both failed, because they just failed one part of the equation, either the speed or the accuracy part. So when I look at that and I do a little bit of math, if I was to calculate that up with hit factor, the guy who dropped 1 Charlie but shot it in 199 shoots a 1407 hit factor, and the guy who shot all the points in a 2:01, 30 points divided by 2:01, shoots a 14.92. So 1407 to 1492, the guy who got the 30 points is actually in significantly better shape. Now, is that necessarily representative of the perfect scoring system? Maybe, maybe not. But what I can tell you is that no other scoring system like it exists, and nothing else would give you an answer to that problem. Usually when I ask that problem to people in class, they're like, I don't know, I guess it just depends on what you value more, speed or accuracy. And in my opinion, man, you have to have both. You've got to make bullets go where you want them to go, but you've got to do it as quickly as possible, because in any shooting scenario, whether that's self-defense or whether you are a law enforcement officer or a SWAT cop or something like that, or you're just out shooting with your buddies and trying to see who's the best shooter, or you're competing at a high level in USPSA, speed and accuracy both matter. And so I believe that using hit factor will allow you to strike that balance for yourselves. All right, so to wrap this all up, hopefully you guys can see from some of these examples that we did how speed and accuracy can affect your score, and how to use it and calculate up your hit factor and give yourself some solid metrics for what you're doing and how you're performing. The best thing about hit factor, in my opinion, is that I can use it to, number one, compare myself to myself, so I can see how I did before and then shoot the same drill again and see how I improve. But really the greatest beauty of it is I can go use this to compare myself to other people who are better than me. And I can see, okay, this guy is getting significantly better hit factor scores on his stages or his courses of fire. How is he doing that? And then I can watch and see, okay, he is way faster than me, but we have about the same points. And so that tells me, all right, my weakness then is my speed. I need to figure out how to shave time on this type of shooting course, right? Conversely, maybe I find that my speed is pretty good. My speed is on par or maybe even faster than the guys who are winning. Doesn't usually happen, right? But it could be where I have really good times, but I'm just dropping tons of points. I'm dropping tons of mics. I'm dropping tons of things like that. Man, that's not good, right? So I have to go back and see, okay, well, my time is good, but my points are suffering. And so I need to actually shoot a little bit more accurately, even if that comes at the cost of a little bit of time, where my time is going to be a little bit worse. It might actually work out, probably will work out, to have a better overall hit factor score. So if you guys can incorporate this into your training, I think you're going to see a ton of growth, and I think you will be able to really kind of just track your progress and be able to identify areas of weaknesses. That's one of the reasons that I encourage people to go shoot matches, because now you get to compete against other people who are better than you. Guarantee that if you've never shot a match before, you're not going to be the best person at that match. So go shoot against people who are better than you, get data, figure out you know, what are the guys doing who are beating me, and you know, how are they beating me? Is it time? Is it accuracy? Is it both? And then that's just going to give you guys such an informed training plan for you guys to go back and then attack that in practice, in dry fire and things like that, to really become a better, more well-rounded shooter. All right, guys, so that's what I've got on hit factor scoring. Hopefully it was helpful for you guys. I know it was a lot of math, and maybe you're not into that, or maybe it was super boring and you shut off the video, but if you're still here, thanks for watching. And I think it's actually important to know kind of how the math works. And when you calculate it up and you do it by hand like that, I have found that it just reminds me of that points to time relationship every single time I score a drill with hit factor. And I start really being more aware of how those things affect each other, because I write down, okay, well, oh wow, on that drill I was down 6 Charlies. That's actually 12 points. On this drill, man, that's almost half the points, right? So you can start thinking about, you know, hit factor that way, and kind of really make it a part of your, almost like a language that you speak, right? And I think it'll help you guys become more well-rounded shooters. If you have any questions about hit factor or how it works or how to use it in training, if you've been using it in training, man, let me know. Leave a comment for me down below and let me know how hit factor has helped you, or if something's still confusing to you. And I'd love to answer that stuff down in the comments. Until next time, guys, keep practicing shooting, and we'll see you on the range.